first speaker of the night is Guacy B. This evening, Guacy's purpose is to ignite inspiration within each of you. Her aim is to encourage deep reflection on your intrinsic potential for personal growth and transformation. With her words, she hopes to kindle a fire within, urging you to see your darkest moments and fears as stepping stones toward vision, meaning, and purpose in life. After all, none of us have learned to ride a bike without falling and getting hurt. Guacy.
Good evening. On my last speech, I shared my story, my love story, and the devastation of the double life that my husband had for 16 years with an addiction that I knew nothing about. I have been through a lot of traumas in my life. I've been through natural disasters, discrimination, starvation, emotional, psychological, physical, sexual abuse, sexual assault, and rape. And none of those things impacted me as much as betrayal trauma did. Betrayal trauma shook the foundation of my existence because it was the person that I trusted the most who did it. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, my intention tonight, and emotions is going to come up for me, which is part of the best part, right, Tony? My intention tonight is to share with you that despite what happens in your life, you can change it. You can create a vision despite of the hardships and the suffering that you've been through. And my hope is that it will motivate you to reassess your life. Study shows that it takes about 3 to 5 years for the brain to start to heal the narrow pathways that the part of the addiction impacts with the reward system part of the brain. When I learned that, I was all in. Yes, I'm going to support my husband. We're going to do everything that it is required for his healing. In a span of 5 years, workshops, books, personal therapy, family therapy, couple therapy, group therapy, webinars, conferences, we've spent over $185,000. Talk about dedication. But I believe that was worth it. Despite of all the work that we did, I was still being impacted by relational trauma. And it wasn't until years later that he was diagnosed with the second worst personality disorder in the world, with no treatment, no medication, only maintenance. Well, now what? I would like to ask you to please raise your hand of anyone in this room who has not faced any challenges in their lives. Anyone? No one has been rejected at all? Fights in school? My daughter goes through a lot of that. Challenges is part of life. Now, what sets apart the people who have challenges, learn from them, and succeed from the ones who give up and become victim of their circumstances? I wanted and needed that answer for myself. And in despite of the darkness in my life, life wanted to give me another gift. Another thing. And as many of you know, I was in a very serious car accident that completely changed my life. Something I don't wish on anyone. But that car accident and all the trauma that it came with it illuminated a path in my life like LA freeways, right? Directions that I had never seen before, where I thought I was stuck and that I could not find a way out. That was the catalyst I would have not chosen, but it was exactly what I needed. I found my answer. Through that time, the answer was there the whole time. I just did not know it and couldn't see it. Why would I go through all that trauma, very extreme trauma in my life, and somehow I turned out to be pretty decent? Somehow. Why? To help other people. But I had no idea. But the answer was there all along. Challenges are not here to define us. Challenges are here to teach us, to build character in us, to make us stronger and better than we've ever been before. We must embrace wisdom to make changes. Then we must change responses and perceptions. And finally, we must be willing to take action. We all have a life that we are willing to put up with. If you want more purpose and a more fulfilling life, you must be willing to do something different. Now you might say, well, Guacy, you don't understand my situation. You're right, I don't. But I do know what it feels like to come up with excuses for my outcome and continue to have the same outcome. Over and over, as long as I make the same excuses. I did not know how, but I knew I needed two things. I needed to learn what I needed and what I wanted, and why I needed and why I wanted. Then I took small, tiny actions, and that was my how. I became a certified trauma support specialist. I now help women in betrayal trauma impacted by their husband's pornography and sex addiction. I help women find meaning and purpose in life after ongoing sexual betrayal and emotional abuse that this addiction impacts families and their wives. I encourage you to make one small little list this weekend of what you want and what you need. Put it somewhere where you can see it every day. That would be the beginning, that it can change your life. That's it. Thank you.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters, honored guests, and especially Guacy. When our experienced speakers come up, it's such a real treat for newbies such as myself and many others to watch and learn from these incredible speakers. Guacy is the opposite of reticent. She's not shy, she's not reserved, but she exudes this special aura. Every time she's up here, she owns this stage and just gives out such a great confidence that you're just drawn into whatever is coming out of her mouth. I learned as an evaluator, this is my second time, from our OGs, David was my mentor, and also Megan, to go over what you heard, what you saw, and how you felt. What I saw in Guacy's speech tonight is vulnerability, which is so hard as you stand up here in front of a room full of people to share those personal, emotional, traumatic events. I also saw, which is kind of odd, with vulnerability in Guacy, I saw confidence, which that's hard to master, vulnerability and confidence all at the same time. What I heard is someone with experience, not only personal, but also professional in trauma. I also heard someone who cares about other people, who cares about helping other people. What I felt is inspired and motivated by Guacy's speech tonight. Not only tonight, but just every time she's up here. I'd also like to notate that Guacy signed up on a last minute basis. Someone dropped out, and within a day's notice, approximately a day's notice, she signed up and did it last minute. Lastly, what I would have wanted to hear more on for relatability purposes is you mentioned your husband, and you said something along the lines of he was diagnosed with something with the personality disorder. Thank you. I grew up with a schizophrenic grandfather who served in the military for 20 years. I think if you would have mentioned that, maybe it could have related more with tons of other people who have experienced family members and other people along those lines. Other than that, I look forward to your future speeches. Also, Kelly, thank you very much for getting me prepared to be an evaluator with the deep breaths. It helped tremendously. Thank you.